Hello, and thanks for joining me. Here's what happened this week in Anti-Atheism. Agnostic accepts God in 5 minutes? Only 3 questions? I don't think so. I've remarked in the past how Muslim apologists seem to brag that they can convert people to Islam in a matter of minutes over the course of a short video, but this guy is coming out and saying it. Agnostic to Muslim, or at least Islamic theist, in 5 minutes. Either some trickery is going on, or they have a very low threshold for conversion. Maybe it's like that old scene from Family Guy.
Ha! I really said, will you be my wife? And you said yes, so now it is official.
Sean McDowell taking your toughest questions live. I have no doubt that a professional apologist like Sean McDowell can answer any tough question put to him about Christianity, or at least string together a few sentences immediately after the question has been asked, which will often lead people to believe the question has been answered even when it hasn't. But this is the same skill set you'll find with those Muslims on Speaker's Corner. The issue is, given everything else you know and everything else you find reasonable, do those answers make sense? And just as important, are you willing to settle for easy answers? Is Atheism Dead? Eric Metaxas book review, a must-read for Christians and atheists. What atheists? Because the thesis of the book is that, yes, atheism is dead, which means that atheists no longer exist, at least not in enough numbers to click on your affiliate links and earn you money, so why are you recommending this book to us? Didn't really think that one through, did you? The book is the usual nonsense and not even warmed over nonsense. Since God is not directly observable, conveniently, science can only detect God if accompanied by a sound philosophical argument, which invokes the results of scientific observations and tests. And the philosophical premises of those arguments are not even a little bit dialectically compelling. They are, for want of a better word, dead. Am I going to hell? Can a Christian living in sin go to hell? Take a moment here and just look at that thumbnail. The most pernicious doctrine in the history of human thought, as I've said in the past, and this guy is using it as a cute video effect. Shame on you, Mike Signorelli. Shame. Atheists, test your faith in Dawkins. Why do you think I have faith in Dawkins? Why do you think Dawkins plays any role at all in my atheism? I have to tell you, I have met very few people who are atheists because of Dawkins or any other new atheists. Probably John Loftus has been more influential in creating actual atheists than Dawkins, and why do you have them both as stick figures? Is that like one level up from strawman, a stickman? Oh my god, are you the big bad wolf? Bible Teachings by Gordon Havens. If you're an atheist, ... Well, this video doesn't seem to have a particular singular thesis, but one of the things he says is that we shouldn't prescribe what God is going to do. But one of the ways that God reveals himself is by having people look at the world around them. So we're looking at the world around us, and we can describe, not prescribe, what God does and does not do if he exists. So from the fact that gratuitous suffering exists, we can say that there does not exist a being who loves us enough to prevent that suffering. From the fact that profound and violent religious disagreement exists, we can say that there does not exist a being who cares enough about religious unity to bring it about. And so on. And you don't need to look to the Bible for possible answers to these objections, you can just use your imagination. And whatever your imagination comes up with, you can probably find support for it in the Bible because it's so large and diverse and, let's face it, contradictory. The question that interests me is, do those possible answers make sense? Also, if you view any atheist who has a reasoned and thoughtful response to what you're saying as trolling, that's probably not conducive to the sort of discussion you claim to be hoping to have. If atheists were honest, number 2, Christrigheous here, role-playing an atheist and showing that he thinks 3 things are true about us. Number 1, we're all British. Number 2, we all keep our Christmas lights up until the end of January. And number 3, we're all closeted Christians. So you know what? To hell with being polite, I'm going to go ahead and accuse Christrigheous here of being a closeted atheist. Stop pretending that you don't know God doesn't exist. Stop pretending to be a Christian. Hey, that's actually a pretty easy way of arguing, isn't it? You might even call it lazy. Universalism says all will be saved from God's wrath sooner or later, but the Bible rejects this. Well, if you interpret the Bible according to this guy's favorite verses, yes it does. If you interpret the Bible according to the Universalists' favorite verses, no it doesn't. Frankly, you can learn a lot about a Christian as a moral being by asking them their favorite verses and how they interpret them. Universalist Christians tend to be pretty decent folk in my experience. Christians like this guy, they can go to hell. We answer the objections. Atheists can't answer these 3 questions. So he's responding to objections to that video. Wait a minute, were you asking questions in that video, or were you making arguments? Because you can ask non-rhetorical questions or you can make arguments, but you can't do both. And since you speak of 3 things being objected to, not answered, that suggests arguments. Also, once again, there's a difference between answering an objection and saying things after an objection has been said in order to give the appearance that the objection has been answered. I'm not sure you know the difference either. Ex-atheist travels to hell and sees Hitler's punishment? Pastor Kyle Bailey. Yeah, that question mark at the end isn't fooling anyone. You have no intention of approaching such a ridiculous story with skepticism. You either actually believe the story, or you don't care if it's true or not. You're just cynically using it to entrench yourself and your followers into believing the pernicious doctrine of hell. Shame on you as well, Pastor Kyle Bailey. Cheating a bit here since this is a preview for a future video that came up this week, but is eternal punishment consistent with the goodness of God? No. No, it's not. Is the doctrine of hell a problem for Christianity? Yes. Yes, it is. If you're expecting some kind of nuance here, there isn't any. Hell is not compatible with a good God. The doctrine of hell is a problem for Christianity. Period. Evolution is not a fact. Why? Because it's called the theory of evolution. Why is this guy not on the ceiling? I asked because it's called the theory of gravity. We'll do one more. Trent Horn here again, the 3 apologetic traps, the 3 mistakes that an apologist might make. Number 3 is lack of rigor, not reading academic books and papers, which I'm on board with that. Number 2 is not being charitable, not being nice, and giving your opponent the benefit of the doubt whenever possible, which I'm on board with that too. Number 1 is not being spiritual, not praying and worshiping and keeping the faith, which, what? Because that's advice any Christian can get from any other Christian. Why is it particular advice for apologists? And in particular, why is it the number 1 piece of advice for apologists? Why would apologists need above all else to do the behavior that reinforces their entrenchment in Christianity? Why is this the number 1 trap to avoid? Because you risk being mean if you forget how Christian you are? I think that's well enough covered under number 2. Because you risk not being academically rigorous if you forget how Christian you are? Well, that's just kind of funny given that the vast majority of Christians are not academically rigorous to any extent. Because it reminds you that you're correct? Well, what if you're not correct? Every single time I see an argument for Christianity, I mentally prepare myself for the possibility, however faint, that this will be the one argument that succeeds where a quarter-century worth of arguments have failed. This will be the one argument that convinces me that I'm wrong. It hasn't happened yet, but it could happen any time. If the number 1 rule that I as a counter-apologist live by is to remind myself constantly that I am an atheist, that's part of my identity, don't I make it less likely that that one argument will convince me? Wouldn't you accuse me of being less than confident of my worldview? Maybe suspicious that it can't actually survive scrutiny? Just something for Trent and any other apologist watching this to think about, because there's a reason why many spiritual leaders consider apologetics to be, well, dangerous. They're afraid of you becoming an atheist. And they're right to be afraid of that. And that's what happened this week in Anti-Atheism. If you enjoyed this video and want to help my channel grow, please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And if you want to share anything interesting, funny, or tragic that happened to you this week, leave a comment below. Thanks for coming along, and we'll see you in the next video. I'm David John Wellman, and the rest is up to you.